Good evening, guys, and welcome to this week's live at 9:45, hosted by me, Adam Van Ord, your host. I have with me this week Rob Mathews of USTE, and we're going to discuss the event. We're also going to discuss some of the other stuff that Rob has going on. Just real quick before we get things fired up, I can adjust the. I'd like to address all these comments that we have in here. I appreciate everybody who's in the feed so far. And I only expect that it will probably grow as things go on and as time continues here. I appreciate you guys all for tuning in over and over and over again. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit that alert bell so that you get notified when we go live. I've been trying to share it over to Facebook to recoup some of our viewers that we had during our time on Facebook. However, it's been a slow process and guys are filtering in, but hitting that subscribe button will make sure that you get notified, especially if you hit that bell, and then you'll know what's going on. You'll know when I post up new people to interview, new events, so on and so forth. Other than that, I think you guys, for the most part, probably know what's going on. All I ask is keep it fairly PG, family friendly, and enjoy the comments. I will try to get to the comments that I can inside of, inside of the show and address them as things are happening. If you have any questions for myself or for Rob during this episode, be sure to ask them, and especially even if you're watching after the fact, I go back through and look at all of my comments and address them all there as well. So without further ado, I'm going to work on bringing Rob over here into our conversation and get things fired up. First, I have to turn his volume on. So here we go. Rob's coming in. So, hey, man, how's it going?
Fantastic. In it to win it.
Awesome. So, I just hid my questions from myself, but my first question is always, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and possibly what you're doing here?
Well, let's run that in reverse. I'm here because you asked me on your show, so I think that's flattering from my perspective. I'm kind of a nobody, in my opinion. There are a lot of better builders, a lot of well-known guys out there, so I thought that was pretty humbling that you wanted me on. Yeah, I mean, I'm 40 something or other years old. Been doing RC stuff for a long time now. I wish I made income doing RC stuff, but I don't. I run a pool business on the side, full time, I should say. So this is advantageous. See that? That's called a tax write-off. A very good-looking tax write-off. I mean, that's like advertising. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
All right, man. So, how long have you been in the RC hobby in general?
I would have to say 35, 37 years.
All right.
Give or take, a fair amount of time.
Fair enough. What do you remember what or who kind of got you in the hobby and got things rolling?
No. I remember I had a friend growing up, Travis Scrambling, and him and his dad did RC back when, we're talking, mid 80s, I guess, to where, I don't know if you remember the gold box. The gold brick was an ESC back then. Otherwise, you used like a sweeper arm. I think he was into RC, and somewhere when I was maybe 9, 10, 11, somewhere thereabouts, my stepdad actually assembled my first hobby grade RC. So that would have been a Panda Danny Thompson stadium truck. That was my first just fantastic thing ever. I thought it was great. Drove the wheels off of it. Actually wore out the rear pivot, had an old plastic ball in it. Was just, I jumped that truck. Pretty much driving it nonstop.
Right on. So people are messaging me saying we've got some audio stuff. I'm trying to fix that in the background. Sounds like directional mic on his camera, someone's saying. So more or less, as long as you're looking right at the camera, Rob, while you're talking, hopefully it'll improve a little bit of what we got going on here. And other than that, I tried to adjust some things on my end. We'll go from there. Someone's apologizing for your internet connection, I guess. So that's always interesting as well. So what was
You're getting me a hard time already. Geez, we're just getting started.
Right. If you weren't in RC, what do you think your hobby of choice would be? What would you be doing more of in your life?
I can't say I would be doing more fishing because I do a lot of that as it is. RC is such a broad spectrum thing. Like, so we cumulatively, right? We have tiny trucks, right? but that's just a small segment of RC. So if there was no RC at all, yeah, well, I'd probably live on my boat at that point, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. X. If you have a choice, are you a big tire fan or a small tire fan?
Small tires. I know that's a shocker to a lot of people.
Yeah, super big shocker. You couldn't tell that from looking behind you at all. Which we're gonna get to that pile of stuff here in a moment for sure. And brushed or brushless? What's the preference?
Both. I can say that I don't. It depends on what you're doing. Even with scale trucks, it just depends on what you're doing. So I have 3 brush trucks and 1 brushless truck on top of the fish tank, and then I have 1 brushed and 1 brushless truck behind me.
Yeah.
It just depends on what you're doing.
Right on. And I think that I get that answer more than not. That it depends on what you got going on and what you're choosing to do with your trucks and the task at hand. It seems to be a pretty common theme in what people say in regards to that for sure. What do you like most about the RC hobby in general?
From my end, it's the creative aspect. So I can go out into the shop and make things, solutions to problems. I don't, although I do some bolt-on stuff. I like the modeling aspect, whether that's working with metal or styrene or paint or whatever it might be. That's the draw to me. Is I guess you could say the artsy side of things. And I guess that's my biggest draw into scale. Scale.
Right. So I have to switch now and talk a little bit about the event in question. Everything that we talked about for the most part when we did your intro thing, when we did all the stuff, we talked about the fact that we're going to be speaking to an event called USTE. Can you describe for me what exactly USTE is?
Sure. So I'm gonna preface this. If I didn't know this until you told me, but when people come on your show, you actually give them a basic list of questions that you ask them. So the answer to this specific question, what is USTE? Well, USTE is the abbreviation for the Ultimate Scale Truck Expo. That's the short version. Is that we answered this question for ourselves almost 4 years ago before we even had the event. So let me move my red toaster over here. That's sort of an inside joke. So what is USTE? Keep in mind, this is 4 years ago we wrote this, before we ever had the event. USTE is an immersive event designed to give back to the attendee. Unlike other events that are based around a competition, USTE is based around learning and skill building. Competition and driving take a side seat to hearing some of the brightest folks in the scale RC industry talk about how they do what they do. There will be demonstrations and hands-on learning with regards to building skills. The expo is also a much more relaxed atmosphere with plenty of time for attendees to network, to get to know other hobbyists and vendors. There's also the opportunity for attendees to have face-to-face interactions with the best, not only vendors, but with the best, we'll say, personalities within the scale hobby. And when I say personalities, some of those are vendors, but then there are other guys like, Chris DeGroff comes to mind right off the bat. Hemystorm. If you don't know who he is, you've been under a rock for a while or something. He's a talented painter, and and he's a personality. He's a top shelf guy, really fun to hang out with, and so that's what that's referring to. So it is our hope and goal for attendees to leave the expo inspired with new methods and skills for building scale RC vehicles. It is also our hope to provide a venue for vendors and hobbyists to be able to have one-on-one, meaningful, in-person interactions. Lastly, our goal is to promote our hobby in a meaningful, relaxed, friendly environment that encourages family involvement. So that is what USTE is, and we wrote this 4 years ago before we ever held an event. Like, this was 13 months before we held an event. We wrote this down. What do we want? That is what we want right there. That big long. So.
That's awesome. That's and I think that it really that kind of segues and leads right into my next question is, you actually for your event have a specific mission statement, which I believe is not what you just read. What you just read is like a description of what you're doing for an event, which is very different from most of any event I've ever been to, and I would say pretty much any event I've heard of. So can we talk a little bit about this mission statement and refer to like exactly what is it and why did you elect to go that way?
Sure. So what I just read is a pretty brief overview, and our mission statement basically takes that down and condenses it into a couple of sentences. So here we go. This is the Ultimate Scale Truck Expo's mission statement. It is to connect manufacturers, artisans, and enthusiasts by using meaningful person-to-person interactions for the betterment of scale modelers, the hobby, and all who experience it. That is our mission statement. So it just condenses what I said into a small thing. And here's what a lot of people have called USTE. USTE is the tiny truck SEMA. Mm-hmm. So it's who's who and what's what, and the best builders, they come to USTE and they show off their builds and they show off their products. That's what USTE is.
Right, and who could think of a better place to go to meet people who build top quality builds, A, and B, like you tend to get a good turnout from the aftermarket and from some of the manufacturers as well, and so that's always kind of a big draw, I would think, from myself. I'm reading comments and it says artisans. Isn't that one of those fancy wells?
It is. We actually have those too here in Florida. You should come see them.
Awesome. So, let's talk briefly about these trucks behind you. You have two that seem to not fit in the rest of the crowd there. And so every year at USTE, you hold some kind of event where it's like competition oriented. You kind of go toward those guys who are, they want to come out, they want to see all that stuff, but man, they're still super competitive and they just want to throw down. What are you doing this year, and can you tell us a little bit of a story behind it?
So this year we are doing monster truck. Well, we're doing several things actually. There's 3 events this year if you want to be competitive, or maybe 4. I'm going to leave out the gallery voting because that's on a totally different playing field. So if you want to, if you got something to prove and you want to beat the guy next to you, in the past we have done side-by-side drags, and Axial provided us a couple of deadbolts, and it's a heads-up elimination, $10 ticket, and swap lanes, swap trucks, and that's that. And the last 2 guys take home the trucks for $10, and that is a lot of fun and brings in a lot of people.
Yeah.
Forget driving; it's fun to watch. So last year, Rich J Concept says, "Hey, why don't you see if you can get some monster trucks, the SMT10 monster trucks?" So I said, "That's a really good idea." He goes, "Well, if you get the monster trucks, we'll hook you up with a couple of custom bodies, and we'll get you some aftermarket tires and rims." And then it went from that. And this is all great idea, right? So then Mike Lohman of Mike's RC World, he's like, "Well, man, we're just gonna hook up these things. So we'll do metal geared transmissions. We got transmission gears. We're going to do metal drive shafts. We're going to do axial hardened ring and pinion gears, front and rear. So these are a little or a lot nicer than what we've given away in the past. So they're, behind me, I'm sure you can see we got a black one, and then we got a white and copper colored one, and they're pretty much tricked out right now. They're not stock trucks at all, and hoot this year. So that's one thing. A $10 ticket, heads up elimination. The next thing is that vintage stuff is kind of seems to me to be growing, right? Vintage RCs, and there's a whole rule set that goes with this. I don't know who made those rules. Those guys are all sort of guys or something. No offense. My rule set. We're going to have vintage buggy racing this year, and we're going to have a legitimate track in the infield in front of Vendors Row. And I have two classes. I have 2-wheel drive and I have 4-wheel drive. And I have 2 classes, 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive. Did you pick up on that? I mean, the guys that are watching, make sure you get this. There are 2 classes, 4-wheel drive, and that's it. So if you want to run totally, 5,700 kV 4S ludicrous speed, that's fine. Is your buggy 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive? We'll put you in that class. If you have a little sealed silver can Tamiya motor, that's fine. Is your buggy 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive? We're going to put you in that class. That's going to be super fun. It's a $5 ticket. All the proceeds to that go to Crawler for Kids. So everything we bring in, vintage buggies, goes to Crawler for Kids.
Awesome.
So, these are, 2-wheel drive, what do you call the bug? The Coyote Show dune buggy looking thing. It's slipping my mind right now.
Yeah, so I'm not a vintage guy. Like, I have no vintage stuff. I'm totally in the now. I can't help you. I apologize. Sorry, internet. I'm sure I'm going to get some comments here in like 2 seconds of people who are going, I know what that's called. So if you know, help us out, guys.
Coyote Show Beetle, and then there's a Turbo Scorpion, which is bigger modern tire things. And then this is a 1989 Tamiya Egress. That's a 4-wheel drive buggy. Anything older than 1989. And I had some people say, well, that's not what the rules are. Well, those are my rules. And the reason is it's 30 years old, pre-1989. That makes it 30 years old. So that's what I went with. There are lots of options out there. Tamiya's got, like, who hasn't heard of a Tamiya Frog, right? A little tiny strung bouncy thing that handles horrible and is a blast to drive. That's a 2-wheel buggy. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges associated with pulling off an event of this caliber. Like, let's be realistic. This thing's getting sizable and growing yearly, and the buzz gets generated and talked about, and it's not something that no one's ever heard of. So what does it take to pull off an event like this? And I mean, we can talk about trail stuff, whatever, but like, what is behind the scenes that no one sees to make all this happen?
Holy cow. I'll tell you what, I'll pay somebody. I will do all the emails, the text messages, the private messages, the phone calls. Well, the phone calls don't bother me too much. And I'll just go build trails.
Yeah.
Great. You just let me go build trails and somebody else can take care of all the behind the scenes stuff. That'd be amazing. If my grandpa were here, he'd say it takes intestinal fortitude. It is work. It is a lot of work. A good friend of mine, Joe Collins up in Jacksonville, he goes, so has this become a full-time job yet? And my answer is no, not yet. But pretty much 4 months before the event is virtually a full-time job.
Yeah.
Which is, if I didn't like doing it and if I didn't like the people, it would be more challenging. But, I like building trails and I like 98% of the people. So, I think. And if I didn't, I'll tell you what, it wouldn't get done at all if I didn't have a right-hand man, and that would be Kevin Luce. He lives just 10 minutes away, and for as much time as I spend out there, he spends the same amount of time. And when I go home sore and achy, he goes home sore and achy too. So
Right.
yeah, that's a huge help to have a guy you can lean on, pretty heavily to pull something like this off.
Absolutely. So I was gonna ask, like, I'm pretty sure I know, and you just alluded to it. It's not just you involved in this. How many people are involved in kind of making the whole USTE thing happen?
Let's see. So I have a website, Instagram, and Facebook gal. That's Joy Wood. She's a couple hours south.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Kevin. He's my muscle. He helps with the trail stuff. I have Matt Dexter. He's a couple hours south. He tries to keep me. What is his role? He tries to keep me from not being quite so harsh. Uh, he deals with a lot of, or almost all of the stuff that comes through with regard to questions on social media.
Right.
So if the event USDE gets a question through that page, that's Matt Dexter with that, because he's more. He might not be the right word, but he knows how to phrase it nicely. Which is funny because it's the same thing Amanda tells me. Amanda, so my better half, obviously, none of this would get accomplished without her blessing, because that would just be miserable and not fun.
Yeah.
Let's see. Chris of GCM, he is extremely helpful with regards to bouncing ideas around to say, hey, what do you think about this for the event, or how do you think I should go about accomplishing this task, or a lot of stuff when it comes to drafting emails. I'll send to him, and he proofreads and kind of helps me go through a little bit phrasing things right in emails that matter, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Corey, who actually, this event is not my idea. I should mention this. Ultimate Scale Truck Expo is not Rob Mathews. I did not create this. That would be Corey Verne. He's 3 hours south. He's a real life hero. Fire department, special ops squad, paramedic, you name it.
Awesome.
So 4 years ago, he said, we have all these competitions in Recon G6, and that's all great, and those are all fun, but there isn't really an event that exists that's about teaching and training and how to be a better modeler, and learning some things that you don't, that may be skill set that you don't have. So I'm like, this is a fantastic idea. You should totally do that. And he goes, yeah, I've been kicking around. And then it went to, well, this is a totally fantastic idea. We should do that. And then I kind of twisted his ear. And so he's like, okay, so the first year was a 50-50 split. We both worked on it, and it went pretty well. But him being three hours away just wasn't practical for him to really stay on and put forth the effort. So for those that don't know, this event is not my idea. It's Corey Verne's idea. And he is still, he's here all through the weekend. He comes up and he helps on days when he can get up here. And so that's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So what's happening? There's 5 of us or 6 of us, I guess, that really go full tilt. Oh my God, I missed a huge person. So year number 1, on trail number 7, there's a really long bridge, and everybody loves this bridge. And I had very little to do with that bridge. One of my customers from my pool work is an engineer for the University of Florida. And he has been instrumental in pulling off really fantastic scale bridges, mostly. And the one that is this year, that hopefully will go up Saturday, will blow your minds. It's huge. So that would be Brent Gila. For what it's worth. Like this year, that bridge is bonkers. It is awesome.
That's sweet, man. In my area, we don't usually spend the time to do the scale bridge things, so that would be a unique experience for me. If it was in the cards, I totally would be down there. Maybe next year. We talked about that already. Hopefully next year. Shooting for 2020. So,
there you go.
All right, so let's move on to my next question over here. And basically it says, Uh, last night and our other day when we spoke on the phone, we kind of discussed that the whole vendor thing's a little different at USTE, and in the way that you arrange it and the way that you structure it. Could you discuss that a little bit and kind of how that differs from what usually goes on in a like different style of event type setting?
Sure. So that's that all falls back to the USC mission statement. 100% that goes back to the mission statement. And Amanda and I are pretty well traveled, and I mean I've gone before I was married for sure. I mean I went all over the Southeast and did off-road buggy racing and did super speedway stuff. I mean I've been around, not just in scale trucks, but I've been to a lot of different events. And one thing that is unanimous across all these different venues is that there's never been a central location to go, whether you're in the pits or whatever, to go to a vendor area where there are a bunch of vendors all together. Now you see banners, right? You see guys with their pop-up tents and banners advertising this company and that company and that, whatever. But are those guys sponsored drivers? Are they the actual company representatives? Do they have product for sale there? You never know, unless there are exceptions to this rule. And the one that comes to mind immediately is at the K&K Top Truck Challenge. Dan Davidson is there. We all know Dan, Beef Tubes, right? He's got a setup that is freaking awesome, and it says Beef across the bottom, and he has product on his table. So when you walk up there, it's not like, well, who is this guy? Well, is he sponsored by Dan? Or, is he sponsored by YouTube or what? He's got product on his table, right? That's very, very obvious. Or even K&K, when they go to an event, right? They've got their banners. You don't know who Mike and Amberly Kirby are. You've been under a rock for a while. But in a big group setting, if you go to a Recon G6 or you go to a whatever event it might be, you kind of have to wander around through the pits to go see who's there, right. Which is a real pain in the rear end. So at USTE, I don't want people to go wandering around to go, hey, I heard that such and such was going to be here. No, our pits are not pits. It's vendor row. And so I think this year we had 21 vendors on vendor row. I think that's right. And the only people there are vendors. So, where you park your car is kind of back in the field. You can put your pop-up out there and hang out there, and you can have your pit space out there. But the central location is for vendors and vendors only. We want to give them as much attention as possible. They're there to hopefully to make money, to sell their products, to shake people's hands, to meet new people. And so that's, we're pretty adamant on that. That needs to, part of the draw of this event is the vendors, but a big part of the draw is the vendors.
Right.
So.
All right. So my next question is kind of in regards to that sort of, but you and I had spoken over the last couple days here, and we were talking a little bit about the fact that in order to make contact with these vendors and with companies, when you're reaching out to them and getting a hold of them, almost every time immediately they think that you're looking for sponsorship. So I may be a little bit out of order in my questionings, but I really feel that it fits here. And what is that process like for you? Because it's very unique for you. And I even caught myself in the conversation that we had, just reverting back to the old way that everybody else does. You allude to a little bit about what I'm talking about.
Yep, I sure can. And I hate to keep saying this, but it's very true. This goes right back to our mission statement. So the very first line of the mission statement, I'm going to read it again.
Yeah.
The Uptscaletruckexpo mission statement is to connect manufacturers, artisans, and enthusiasts. It's the very first line. So here's what I want for USTE. I want manufacturers at my event. Number one. I don't, and this is really funny because the first year I had, it was comical. The first year I was calling everybody, and I'm a nobody, right? The event doesn't exist. It's the first year for the event, so you imagine how challenging that was. And I would call companies and say, hey, this is this is Rob. I want to talk to whoever I need to talk to about this totally awesome event we're going to have. It's going to be amazing, and would get shut down. Like, I mean, immediately. The conversation wouldn't last 15 seconds, and we're like, yeah, we don't sponsor first, second, or third year events. I mean, just cut and dry. The answer was no. And I was like, well, I don't want you to sponsor the event. And then they were like, wait, what? What do you mean you don't want us to sponsor the event? And I'm like, I want you to come to the event. You can keep your product. And that goes right back to the mission statement. It's to connect manufacturers. Now, it's not, the mission statement doesn't say to call every vendor known to man and get product. Right. That's not what SE is about. So that was a learning curve, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's an easy one to fall into, because I mean, I don't think it's any secret. If I'm going to an event, usually it's a scale competition, and almost always, and every scale comp I've ever been to, people are always searching for sponsors. So I think that companies get bombarded with those sponsorship requests, and I could see how that would be kind of an uphill battle for you, because you're like, I don't need you to sponsor. I want you to show up.
That's it. And that's I mean, I had a lot of people that were just, and I started calling. So for the first year, I was calling for support to have people come to the event 14 months early. So a year and 2 months before the event. So it was 2016. Is that right? Was that 16, 17, 19? 2016. So I was calling in it was just into 2015. And I was, a year, and I'm like, yeah, so the event is in, I think it was in March then. The event's in March, and people were going, oh, that's too soon. I can't possibly make that. There's no way. And I'm, dude, it's over a year away. And he's like, or he, she, they, I'm not pointing anybody out, but this happened numerous times. And they'd be like, it would go from, well, that's too early, we can't go. And then it would turn just the opposite. Well, that's too far away. We don't know what we're doing then. And I'm going, is there like a magic time frame that I need to contact you? Because first it was not enough time, and then it was too much time. It's like, it was, oh man, give me a sledgehammer so I can beat on my own head. It was just really comical. And it was the same thing with different vendors over and over and over again. And I'm like, holy cow. I mean, it was a steep learning curve. It was a very learning curve.
Well, and I think that's part of that human condition where we all kind of fall into the norm, if you will, the most common of the things, and in that, when you fall into that, like anything outside of there, it kind of, you have to take a step back and really focus on exactly what's going on. So. All right, Rob, let's talk a little bit about, I'm going to shift it a touch and here in the middle of all this stuff and say, what advice do you have for people who are out there in the scale community trying to put on events, trying to hold an event of any type, and trying to grow their events? What advice do you have for those individuals?
Persevere. Absolutely do not let the negative drag you down. Stay miles ahead of the negative. Do the event because it's the right thing to do. Put your heart into the event, and don't take no for an answer. Just keep after it. Depending on what type of, it doesn't really matter. Depends on what type of event you want to have. I mean, it would be, to me, the easiest thing would be to get a bunch of guys together and, I don't know, if there's 10 guys that say, hey, man, we're going to have a fun run, or hey, let's have competition. Persevere. If nobody shows up and it's you and one other guy that shows up, heck with those guys. We're going to have a good time anyway. Perseverance. That is definitely what it takes. And do not let the negative drag you down. That is the best advice I could possibly give. Stay with it, keep pounding on, and Do it because you know you're going to be successful, and that's how you get it done. Hard work, right? Just like in real life.
Yeah, that's definitely the case, and that's the way that it works. So my next question is framed around other events that you may attend throughout the year. What one would you say is your favorite event to go to?
So that's tough. That's a really tough question for me to answer. I have found that I'm not, and it's funny because everybody tries to argue with me. You are too. I'm not competitive. When it comes to this stuff, right? I like bashers, but I'm not. I raced so much when I was younger that I could give a rip about that now. To be fair,
right?
And I guess my favorite event, honestly, is probably the G6 that Parker puts on in Warsaw, Ontario. That's probably my favorite event. It's good weather. It's fantastic terrain. It's a big turnout. They must have, I don't know, got to be close to a couple hundred people. And it's super low key, right? It's Parker, right? It's a G6, so it's like he doesn't care what you run. And, you go out and you run with your buddies and you have a good time. That's my favorite event. But the location that they have up there is pretty phenomenal. Yeah, that's probably it. If I had to pick just one, but I don't know. With that being said, Mike and Amberley last year did a Class 0 course.
Yeah.
And even though that was a competition, right? I mean, so here's, in my opinion, anybody that does the dollhouse trucking, right, the small tires.
Yeah.
If there's a competitive bone in their body, like maybe it's because their paint's better than the other guy or something, right? I mean, that was the most fun competition. I think that's the most fun competition I've done in 5 or 6 years of doing trucking like this. That was a ball. So, there you go. 2 different events.
Yeah, and 2 very different styles. And then the one we're talking about right now is also like the third style. So I would pose a question to the people who are watching right now. I'm watching all these comments go. Great sidebar conversation, guys. It's very entertaining for me to read them. Sorry that you can't see them, Rob. But on
huh? So I can actually follow it on my laptop a little bit as it scrolls through.
There you go. So I'm glad you are getting to see them because it's fairly entertaining. I like the sidebar conversation. And so my question to all of you is, like, with all of this opportunity out there for events, from scale like oriented Sorka competitions, very like heavily rules based, to USTE that is like, come show off your beautiful truck and drive it in the woods, to G6s, to the GCM scale adventure series stuff. Like, what is your favorite type of scale competition? And if you are watching this on the replay, leave that in the comments down below. I'd be really curious to hear what people have to say. I think I've noticed a shift in the community as a whole over like the last year, and I'm curious to hear what people have to say about that. So
just you mentioned that, Adam, because I don't want to remiss here since I am a GCM guy. Adventure series format that Chris uses is probably there's no probably, it is the most fun format, hands down. Adventure series is far and away the best format. It's similar to what Parker does, but not really. So I don't want to leave that out. And Chris is probably going, I can't believe he didn't mention my adventure series. Adventure series is loads of fun and very chill. Like, it's very relaxed. It's if you want to call it a competition, you can, I guess. But I mean, it's just I build trails for that event when they're here in the States, or as much as I can. Yeah. And that's a really fun time. That's a great event, especially for a first-time guy that wants to go. Go to a G6 somewhere, or come to an adventure series that GCM puts on. Those are really top shelf.
Yeah. So one of the first times I ever met the guys from GCM, Chris and Dana, was in Pittsburgh, and you and I had talked about that. But it was like one of the first GCM adventure series like format type things. Like, I had never heard of it. I didn't know it was a thing. The first thing I'd ever been to. It was unique compared to anything else I've ever experienced, and I thought it was. I always feel like it's worth mentioning. Very different. Um, Good, bad, and different. It's just different, and I really enjoyed it. It was fun. Got to spend the whole time with the people I went with, driving with them, leaning on each other for help. It was fun. So
Here's one of the single biggest difference for me as a builder. As a I don't know if you want to say dollhouse trucks, that's fine. I use that term a lot. Perspective, the GCM events win hands down. And here's why. And if you've never been to a GCM event, if people watch this video and they don't know what this is all about, here's the biggest difference.
Is right when you get there, you register and you come up and you get a card for your truck. And what this card is it has 9 different categories on the card, right?
yeah,
Best paint, best interior, best detail, best scale accessory, best engine bay. I can't even think of them all. Best old look truck, best new look truck. They give you a little rectangle shaped card. They go, here you go. Go take your truck and put it on the table or put it on the ground or whatever. So when everybody does that and you end up with 75 or 80 or 120 trucks on the ground, part of the scores for Adventure Series are scored by your peers.
yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with Chris or Dana or Dan or Doug or anybody on the GCM team. You're scored from your peers. So everybody has this little scorecard and they walk around and they look at all the different trucks, not their own. Well, some people, I'm sure, but they look at everybody's truck. Oh my God, this truck right here is this paint job is just phenomenal. And they write the truck number. Oh, that's truck number 113. Then they go down the next one, best engine bay. And they go around, they're like, well, look at this guy's engine bay. I mean, he's got 100 hours in just the engine bay. It's amazing. And they write down number 17, right? And you go down the list. It all gets done in about 45 minutes. They turn in their scorecards, and we go through all the scorecards and go, wow, truck number 17 has 20 votes.
They just won. They won that category. And
Yep.
I don't know of any other event that does that, where you're judged from your peers. That doesn't happen. So to me, that's pretty phenomenal. If you've never been to an adventure series, highly, highly recommended. That is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. So talking about the whole judging based on those things, you guys do something similar to that at USTE as well, correct? Where you do like, I don't know if show and shine is the appropriate word. I'm not sure which words you use for defining that, but something along those lines where you're judging builder ability or creativity, so on and so forth. You want to talk a little bit about that?
So then we call it the gallery. It's the GCM gallery. So USTE doesn't have title sponsors, but we do have several vendors that sponsor a certain thing. And GCM is this. That's GCM. That's what they do, and they do it very well. So it's a similar situation, but what happens at USTE is that Chris and Dana will basically go around, and some of the people, the well-known people that show up, they'll grab that person. For instance, Wes Braswell is coming this year to teach a siren class, and I speculate they'll probably grab Wes and say, "Come on, you're one of our judges now." And so it's not judged amongst the peers; it's judged amongst the who's who in RC when you come to this event. And they ended up, I think last year they had maybe 7 or 8 judges. And they go, it's a lot easier to count 7 or 8 scorecards, and they kind of huddle up together and they go around and they go look at everything. Mm-hmm. And it's judged on a very, very high caliber here. And I don't know, I'm sure you can see these things. They look nice and shiny, and I'm telling you, this year, none of that is even coming close to the level of trucks that'll be there this year.
Oh yeah.
So it's a little different, but it is the same. There's a bunch of different categories, and they've got very nice trophies that they give out for those specific categories. And I got lucky and won one. It's over there. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
see for me to get some of her videos. They look like that.
Yeah.
Pretty. Oh, here it looks better when it's.
I was gonna say it's backwards. Now we're good. I can read it even.
So this was, I don't know if they'll be the same style this year or not, but they're pretty nice. I actually won best driver for this truck right here. It's Fish and Wildlife, Florida Fish and Wildlife Comanche pickup, and so anyways, that's that.
Yeah, well, why don't you pick that truck up and show it off, man? I know that oftentimes people are itching for a little show and tell, and so grab it, put it up in front of the camera, show it off, let them see it.
I'm trying to do the slow-mo thing here.
There you go. Nice spin.
And if I can pop the hood, because you can't have a dollhouse truck without a really nice motor in it.
Well, yeah.
This is not been completed, but that's a Mr. Comedy straight 6, 4-liter straight 6.
Yeah.
And it's that seems to be the way. I get some of these at a certain level, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just not going to spend a lot of time on it. All-scale drivetrain, right? It sits on a C-Max chassis. It's a split coil and shock setup up front, and leaf sprung rear, full light kit, front, back, sideways, all that stuff. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So little show and tell there, and then we move on to some other stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the trail prep stuff. You said you spend hours in the woods. Kevin, correct, was the other name. Both you guys are out there doing stuff. You sent me a picture. It must have been today, right? Was the day you were out, or yesterday?
Every day, Adam.
I'm sorry. Every day Rob is in the woods. Out doing some trail work, and so had chainsaws and weed eaters and leaf blowers, and man, you guys name it, that there's some time put in. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So since I got your list of questions, I actually was pondering this and going, how much time do we really have just on trail work?
Yeah.
And the honest answer is, I probably don't want to know how much time we have out there. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. I mean, without, that's, I would say we have 1,000 hours. Yeah. And that maybe that's a little higher, maybe that's not high enough. It's massive. It is a massive undertaking. We start 4 months early. So let's see, it's the end of February. We start in November. We start going out there. It's Florida, right? So our growing season is like forever long. We assess. This year's a little different because we have a lot of new trails, new stuff. No terrain that nobody has driven on yet. And we recycle a few spots. And that's about all I'm going to say about that, and we'll keep it a surprise.
There you go. So do you do a lot of driving of what you build to make sure that it's up to par, the way you want it to be, so on and so forth, or do you kind of just cut it into the ground and that is what it is?
That is a really, really good question. Actually, I'm gonna get up here. I'm gonna show you my jeans. I don't know if you can see that.
Well, now that we're showing off again, here we go. I'm back over to just you. So, show them the truck.
So this truck, this is an RC 4-wheel drive D90. Sitting on what are these? Mud Thrasher? The Mud Thrasher, right? The stock tire on a Trail Finder 2.
Yeah.
This was my demo truck for the first year at USTE. Just like this. It's a full coil C-Max chassis. It's as scale as you can make it, in my opinion. I have way too many hours on this truck. This vehicle drove all of the trails, and the first year we did bonus lines. They drove all the trails in 90% of the bonus lines carefully. So this was my test goat, year one. Little tiny tire truck, super scale, top heavy, fantastic. Because the event is growing and we're bringing the right people, the really, really detailed scale modelers.
Yeah.
This is my current test rig. If you don't know, these are RC four-wheel drive, Mickey Thompson, what are they? Fun country, mud countries. They're small countries. They're 3.3.
So I've seen that truck. I've like been right in the vicinity of it when you guys were East Coast. Those are some ridiculously tiny tires. They define tiny tire, I would say.
That's right.
So this truck is the GOAT this year. So all the trails that we're doing, and I mean all of them, this truck can drive all of it. And if you can see the mud dam across the front,
yeah,
it's still there. A lot of guys cut that thing off with a razor saw, and it looks nice, but it's not stock. This is supposed to be a really super stock, very small super stock truck.
Yeah. So hold on, go back. I just transitioned right off of your screen because you were winding up, and then you're like, and I'm gonna pop the hood. So we got to see that hood. So we're back. We've got you full screen again, and you can show off for a sec. Oh yeah.
It's not. It's filthy dirty because Amanda likes to mud bog the tiny tire truck. So it's what it is.
We gotta get them. Gotta get them dirty, at least a little bit. They always sit on the shelf.
It's a little dirty. First year was this, which is still tiny tire by most everybody's definition, and then this is taking it to the next level down, the next level smaller, if you will.
Yeah. So while you're half up right now, what are you building for this year? Anything that kind of isn't maybe quite done yet, is done yet? What's the goal here?
This got a rebuild this year. So it's a brand new body. It's all fresh paint. The engine bay of this truck I have 50 hours in, pretty easy. It's 300 TDI. Everything is there. All the plumbing, turbo, intercooler is all there on this truck.
Yeah.
So this is new. My Range Rover, that's a JS scale Range Rover. That's new. And then this one is probably the nicest one for this year. Would be a LC70.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pull it down because it's you should come to Florida and see it, Adam. That's why I'm not going to pull it down.
Yeah, I'll be picking up pictures and some video. I might have an in for some possible video coming my way and so on and so forth. So I talked to one of my buddies last night who's going down, who you know real well, and in fact you know a lot behind his accommodations and all that stuff. But anyway, I was talking to him, and we're going to see if we can maybe piece together some video and some info. And ideally, hopefully, maybe I'll do something regarding it, but we'll see. We'll see what time has here in this neck of the woods, as well as what's going on down there. Because you and I know once you get to an event, it's fun. That's what you do when you're there. You're like, oh wait, I was supposed to shoot a movie or video, or I was supposed to take pictures of trucks. Like, you've spent 2 days doing none of that, and you race around the last day trying to salvage it.
Well, I know the trails are coming. I know the trails are doing well, specifically today. So Kevin and I were out there today, finishing up part of course 2, which those that have been out there, they know where course 2 is.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually was like we're doing trail work, and we're stacking rocks, and I'm stacking rocks. That's my job. I'm the rock stacker, apparently.
Nice.
And I came to a point, and I'm like, I really wish I had a truck here because I want to drive this now. The trails look so nice, and I was literally like, why did I not bring a truck? Why not bring the Toyota with me? Because I totally I want to drive have this. The trails are just so nice and they're groomed out and they're weeded and blown and stacked and they're perfect. And I'm like, why did I not bring this truck? So maybe tomorrow I'll grab a couple batteries and go out there and
test. Pretty much if you drive over a rock at USDE, it's either too big to be moved or we put it there, which is probably not something a lot of people know.
It's either too big for us to move out of the way or it's been placed there. And that takes
hundreds of hours over the course of.
I honestly can't imagine, because where I compete, it's in where we always ran competitions was at my family's farm, and it was in like a creek bed, and there are literally rocks everywhere on their farm. You don't have to move anything. If you can hit it with a leaf blower and blow the leaves off, like you have scale trails all day. Like you don't really have to work for it, but I guess probably not a ton of rocks in Florida. Might have to look around for them a little bit.
So yeah, to some extent. Basically, the gardens, our host property, is an old phosphate mine.
Okay.
So when they dig these big pits, they have a bunch of basically topsoil, so they're spoils from the digging. And so a lot of what we wheel on are these big mounds of dirt and rock and just garbage, basically, that was 60, 70, 80 years old, now 90 years old.
Right.
And so you get a lot of different types of lime rock and
more lime rock, and then you get some other lime rock. You get what I'm getting at? Lime rock is basically what we have here. We don't have granite or quartz or shale or any of that other stuff. We have lime rock. It's different consistencies, different sizes. I got lucky today and found some really flat, like plates. If you hit the edges together, they sound like a ceramic plate. So,
it's what can I say? It's a labor of love. And the people, this is kind of funny.
Worth mentioning, I guess.
I will say that the first 2 years, the majority of people that came to USDE were in one way or another a competition-oriented person.
Okay.
And I only say that because, well, that's what's out there. You can go to a Recon G6 or you're going to go to a local comp, and that's it.
Right.
Our trails are neither one of those things, and they're meant for they're meant for small tired scale trucks. I have never had a single person complain about my trails that said, "Oh, it's too easy." That has never been said, ever. So I think that's worth mentioning. There's something to that. So yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody I ever talked to. Like the local guys that went down from here were very comp oriented people, and they said, no, the trails weren't hard, but they were amazing. Like, I didn't want them to be more difficult. I just wanted to go drive around. It was super relaxing and calm and just not what we're used to. And I guess that's kind of the draw, man, and unique. I appreciate it.
That's part of the goal. I know me personally, like, I want to build some scale trucks.
And then I want to go out with my buddies and go play. That's what I want to do. I have no desire to, smack talk or say, oh, I'm better than you and I can do this. And no, I just want to go build scale trucks and then go out on a trail and go play, go drive trucks with my buddies. That's it. So for me to pull that off, it's spend a whole bunch of time on trails, make them as groomed and as nice as I can possibly make them, without taking away from the natural beauty of the terrain, because the facility we have is just amazing. It's beautiful, especially now that the water is up
6 feet over what it was. It changes some things, but it's beautiful out there. So spend. I can control two things. Here, let me neck this down. I can control two things. In my opinion, people can only control two things.
I can control my actions,
number one, and I can control my attitude, number two. Those are the only two things that I can truly control. So I do my best to control my actions, and I do my best to control my attitude. And when I go out there, I put my nose to the ground and I bust my rear, and I make trails that are grade A, super high end, or as nice as I can make them. That's what I can control.
Yeah. Yeah, and so all I've ever heard is tremendous feedback, and so for one, I cannot wait to see the videos and the photos that come out of USTE here. Last year, I was absolutely following everything, drooling over trucks that were making their debut there, and I mean, just everything. So, I'm gonna bump ahead to a couple questions here and talk about. So who are your influences in the scale crawling community, and if you were going to have someone on this show to interview, pick?
Influences Dana, and then if it, Nick Barber's cracking me up here. You feel like there's even more chance of truck death. I love these parts. Yeah, well, wait till you see this. Dana Clark, he builds.
He is like he's like the recluse. So
Dana, you don't hear from him all winter because he's snowed in or something in Canada. He shows up, he's got a truck that's like, you take the cover off of it, and it's like, oh, and you're like going,
holy crap, what the hell, where'd you do this? And it's just totally mind-blowing and amazing. And so, yeah, Dana Clark's builds, like all of them, are just friggin' ridiculously super nice and just crazy. Yeah, he can pull. And here's the thing, he does it without telling anybody. There are no leaked photos that show up anywhere. Like, it's just, ta-da, it's done. Holy crap, how did that happen, right?
I don't know how people can do that. So, like, I know why my dad can do stuff like that. That's because he doesn't get on social media and post ever. So if anybody's going to post for him, it would be me. But, like, anybody that's actually involved in social media, I don't know how you can't just, like, share it, show it off. Me, if I'm building a new truck, chances are you've seen, like, every step of the way.
Yeah.
No, if I was going to invite somebody on your show, though,
I mean, gee, me. Well, it seems like, to me, it seems like you've talked to everybody that's anybody, and then even some people that aren't anybody. That would be me.
I would probably, I would like to see you do an interview with JS Scale from France, Sophie and Jerome.
Yeah.
And I mean, they have come to USTE from France for 3 years in a row now. Last year, the truck that he brought was a Cherokee Chief that won Best of Show at this event. If you want some scale, ridiculously talented builders,
painters, artisans, that's JS Scale.
Yeah.
It would be a little challenging due to the time difference. There,
so it's 10:50 now here, and it's what
6 hours away or something. I mean, it's like dark 30 in the morning for them.
Yeah, I mean, I had mentioned somewhere along the way that not every one of these is going to end up being live. There are certain things that I know are coming up in my life that I'm not going to be able to do it live. So some of it will be pre-recorded. I have one of those coming up soon that I really need to get on so I can get it pre-recorded. But I don't think that's as big of a barrier anymore. I did send them a message, and I'm not like calling them out or anything. They were probably like, "Who is this weirdo trying to like talk to us?" But that Cherokee Chief, man, that totally was the thing that I was following all last year. I was drooling all over it. So anybody that talks to them knows them. Whatever. If you want to see them on the show, by all means, if you can hook me up with a conversation with them, I would love to bring them on. Absolutely.
I will do my best to make that happen then.
There you go. Now you're navigating the stuff, man. So my next question, and I haven't asked this one in a while. This one snuck into this line of questioning for you, and I think it's a good one because this is a very different style of event, and I think that a lot of the people that go to this different style of event probably are spending some time on some forums. don't hear about that anymore in the RC crawling community. It's kind of like that underground world that people don't do a lot of talking about. I know Matt talks about Scale Builders Guild all the time, but it like sneaks its way in there so cleverly that you just don't really realize what it is. Now it's kind of like a brand and not just a forum. Are you a Facebook or forum person? Why?
If I had to pick one or the other, it would be forums all day long. And my personal preference is Scale Builders Guild all the way.
So Facebook is
for the right now. And it is nearly impossible to search for data on Facebook.
Yeah, it's really hard.
And that's not the way with forums. So forums, guys can do these elaborate build threads and, and take, I don't know, what was a good example? For instance. So this is a Tamiya rally car. The paint job on this thing is a complete custom one-off job, and I wish that I could say that I did it. I did not. This is Matt Dexter. He goes by Dextroyer on the forums. But this is something that could have been documented and put on a forum, and it would live forever. If people see this and they're like, well, holy cow, I don't know if you guys can see this or not.
Wait, hold on. Let me move it over. Let's let them see it. There it is.
Now, I can't tell what, if you can see
Amanda's like rotated. I don't know if you can see the paint that's in here. It looks like water.
Oh, you're getting better to the light. Keep going that way.
Oh, this way.
Oh, yeah. I can see it on the hood for sure.
So it's one thing for Matt to say, to throw up some pictures on Facebook, right? And everybody goes, oh, that's amazing. That's great. But it's something else for him, not
calling you out, Matt. If he had the time
to go step one
and do whatever he did to pull this off,
take a photo and post it to a forum and then document it. I used
this color, this method, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay, that's dry. Now he can go take it. Now this is step 2 and take another picture of whatever he's doing, the tools he's using and how, and post that on the thread. Okay, this is what I did next. And the final, the finished product is this just totally crazy, fantastic paint job on this body that
I'm fairly certain I'll never run this body. It just it's way too nice.
And if he did all that on Facebook, on a forum, pick your forum. Say he went to the Tamiya Collectors Club of America or whatever on Facebook, right? And he posts it.
Well, a month from now, that post is 227 posts down the line, and nobody will ever find it for anything. But if he posts stuff like that on a forum, whether it's RC Crawler, Scale Builders Guild, or whatever,
it's always there. And the title of the thread is, Tamiya
Nissan 240Z paint job, or whatever it might be. Well, then the next guy coming along goes, man, I got this body and I really want to learn how to paint it and this and that. And well, he just can scroll. He can do a search for it on a forum or just scroll through and go, oh, look at this. And it's a step-by-step documented process. It's right there. It's always findable. And so my personal preference is for forums. Way outweighs Facebook. And if I could get rid of Facebook altogether, I would totally do that. But I feel like I can't now.
Yeah. Facebook feels a little bit like a necessary evil at this point.
For us, it's from a business perspective because I want to know what's new. I want to know what's coming out. Right? Who's up and coming, et cetera, et cetera. And the best way to do that for me is through Facebook groups. Yep. So that's that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that business thing a little bit here. I didn't write a question specifically about it because I wasn't sure how or when it was going to fit in. But let's talk a little bit about the RC business you guys have going on as well, and Amanda.
Sure. So Amanda and I run tinytrucks.com.
and tinytrucks.com is a division of GCM Racing. So we do all the United States sales for GCM Canada, with several. If you want to get your stuff fast, order it from us. If you're okay with waiting, 7 or 9 days or whatever, then you can still order from them, but it's a lot faster if you come from us. You get it in 2 or 3 days.
Right.
With the exception of certain things like the big green Bronco over there. That's a full officially licensed James Duff radius arm front end, like extended radius arms, like anodized blue, laser etched, ridiculously nice. That is all sold through Canada Store.
Right
now, I don't have any of the newest chassis, which is the GCM Delta chassis. It's his newest one, which, hey, I just happen to have one. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, wait, hold on. We got to switch again. Grabbing stuff from off screen for me here. All right. Now let's talk about it.
So this is GCM's newest chassis. It's basically meant to be a short wheelbase rig. It's full Class 1 competition stuff. And slider, super slick drivetrain. I mean, I don't know if you can see that. I mean, it's virtually impossible for this to get hung up on anything. I mean, it's just totally smooth, front to back.
We don't have these yet. Chris is still working up stock. So for now, if you want to get your hands on one of these, this all comes from Canada. But for the most part, all the common parts, if output shafts, or if you want to get a C-Max chassis, or if you want to get, you name dual servo mounts, scale drive lines, all of that stuff we have in our store.
So, but yes, this is the newest, latest, greatest. Adam, if you come to the Ultimate Scale Truck Expo, we can put one of these in your hands and you can drive one. Just that out
there. Yeah. You're really good at this whole twisting my arm thing. Not that I don't want to be there, man. Not even a little bit that I don't want to be there. Gotta be an adult and save some money. Had that discussion.
Hate adulting.
Yeah. Makes it hard, especially when your hobby is centered around tiny trucks, which some people would consider toys. So,
they are toys. I can't argue that.
Listen, I have no qualms with calling them toys, but some people get all frustrated when you call them toys. I call them what they are. They're toys. I'm totally playing with toys, and I'm an adult.
They're very expensive toys, or they can be. They can be. Not all of them, but yeah, some of them can be.
Yeah, they can get expensive real quick. So I'm going to shift things just a little bit. I love throwing this question in there from experienced hobbyists. What is some advice that you would give someone who's just starting out in this hobby, especially in regards to the scale truck scene? Like, they bought their ready to run, they're plugging the battery in, or let's go before that. They're like, hey man, I really want to buy a scale truck. What do you tell them?
Wow. Okay, so that's a tough question because I can't answer that question without more information.
Right.
And so what I have found, and you get hit with that question, especially when you go to a lot of shows and stuff. You go up here, you go over there, wherever you go, and people start looking at some of these trucks and they're like, oh, I got an SCX 10.2 and it's okay, but man, I really want this, right? I really want this really scale thing. And, yeah, you can get an SCX 10.2 and it's, $399 or whatever. And maybe you put a good servo in it and they're $75 or $80 or $100. And you can get your, aftermarket metal bumpers and sliders, and
you can end up with $1,000 SCX 10.2, without even thinking. So here's the hang up. When they go, well, what's
that cost? Or what does that cost? Or what does that cost? And you go, well, I've got $2,700 in that.
Yep.
And they're just totally flabbergasted. Now that's a bit of a stretch, let's be honest. But I mean, some of these trucks, it's the easy, $1,800, $2,000, and their minds explode. This is not up to a certain point, this is not a cheap hobby. It's not a hobby for everyone. It also doesn't need to be insanely expensive.
Which is where I like going out to my garage, right? And making stuff.
Yep.
Well, I need this. This doesn't work right. Well, guess what? I've got channel locks, a couple of vices, a welder, torches. Well, I'll just go out there and I'll make what I need.
And to some extent, I would think for me, it's, well, you can want, a new guy can want to have some of this really scale stuff. And unless they have the money to just flat out buy some of these really high-end scale dollhouse trucks,
Right.
they're better off learning how to model, and whether that means working with styrene or working with metal, or, this one, Chris will tell you, and Dana too, this gets my goat when people get hung up on links. Well, I need a wheelbase that's this long to fit this body, or where can I go buy links to fit this wheelbase? And people ask me all the time, well, what wheelbase is this truck and what wheelbase is this truck? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea, because I don't care about any of that.
Hey,
I'll make whatever I need to take, so it fits. And
Yep.
if it's a little long, pull it apart and cut it down, or file it off, or hit it on a belt sander and put it back together. But that just drives me crazy. People don't know how to make links, and they're either too, they have no desire to learn. To some extent, I feel they don't have a desire to learn how to do the most basic of things, which, like I said, it kind of gets under my skin. How do you not know how to do this? Nobody that have been in the hobby a long time don't know how to do that still.
Yeah.
But they'll spend money to have somebody else do it when they can, spend a few minutes in their garage at a fraction of the cost and make it themselves. So whatever.
Yeah. So I have to thank you for the comment on not knowing what your wheelbase is, because I get asked what my wheelbase is for my trucks constantly. My answer is always A, whatever fit the body, or B, it looks right. Like, and even on my comp trucks, like that, I even on the one behind me here, the Spacicorn, like I have no clue what that wheelbase is. It was not designed around a specific wheelbase. It wasn't thought about, pre-planned, none of that. It was, hey, that looks really good, I'm going with that. So I just build my stuff the way that I can build it and go from there. And I liked that you brought up making your own stuff, because I feel like that gets lost now because it's so easy to click buy. When I did the Tri-Van stuff, believe it or not, everything that is built inside of that truck was done with like a vise, a drill press, and some files. Like nothing fancy. Huh?
You did it with tools. You did it with nothing expensive.
No.
And most people have already. You did it all, the whole thing. And that truck is totally amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I engineered the whole rear end of it with, like, seriously, I used my drill press as a lathe. Because I didn't have a lathe. I do now, but I didn't then. And it was what it was. And so it's get creative and make your own stuff. And even if it looks like garbage, or you do a terrible job and it fails over and over again, at least you're like gaining from it and learning. And I don't know. Now I'm on my side of things. So
mentioning this though, because so the mud Range Rover, the giant blue monster up here.
Yeah.
Chris, I told him what I was going to do with it. So that's on a C-Max chassis, a Link C-Max. And I said it's going to be a mud truck. So can you make me a couple of link plates that's a 10 millimeter lift, which is why that thing looks so ridiculously jacked up. So he did. Made me link plates, and I pulled, like last week, I built that thing last week. Pulled it out, put it all together. Well, the track bar was horrible. Like it was like this. It was all horrible. And now this is funny, we just discussed it. So I called Chris and I'm like, oh, this isn't going to work. This is just bad. Like, you need to make a four link front axle for me so that I can fix all this disaster. And he's like, what are you talking about? Why don't you just build a drop track bar bracket? And I'm like, I gave him all the excuses about why I couldn't do this enough time. Well, the time was sort of accurate. And I went in the garage and I spent, I don't know, not long, 45 minutes. And I used hand tools, right? Drill, you just mentioned it. Hand tools, files, whatever.
and
Yeah.
I made a drop track bar bracket for that truck, and now it's totally fine. But it's just hand tools. It's little thin sheet metal and drills, and I mean, whatever. It's just funny you mentioned that though, because I got into that group like, well, I don't want to make anything. I just, somebody fix it. I just give me a new axle I can go buy. That's the easier solution, is to spend money instead of going in the shop and just doing it yourself. Whatever.
Right.
I spent 40 minutes, it's done.
Yep. Usually you can make it faster than you can get it shipped to your house. Just saying. But I'm going to refer to a comment up here because to me it's hilarious, and it's exactly the way I operate. Ben Morin says, "What's your gearing? Whatever pinion is in my screw, whatever pinion had a screw in it in my junk box." Like it's so how my trucks are. I have no clue about any of that stuff. Whatever is where it is, and it works, and is what it is. So, let's jump back to the whole line of questioning we got going on here, and I have to ask. So we haven't hit USTE 2019, but where do you see USTE heading in coming years? So not necessarily this year, because you've got it all planned out. You're just waiting on people to arrive at this point for the most part. I mean, you got finishing details, but after this year, where do you see going?
There's some behind the scenes things that I don't want to mention here.
That's fine. I get that response often.
It's technical details. That's all it is.
Yep.
The event is growing. We'll bring 250 people this year without batting an eye. That's going to go. I mean, that's no big deal. I can tell you this: the venue that we're at, we can handle 2,000 people. We got the parking. We got the space. It's private property. There's no limitations where we're at. The owner of the gardens basically gives me free roam to do anything I want, wherever I want to do it. And so I do. And that shows in the trails and how they're laid out. If we hit, so my low number this year is 250. If we hit 350, which would be my high number, which to me, that's only 100 people. That's nothing. 100 guys, that's a drop in the hat. But if we hit 350 this year, that would totally blow this event, giving me just wide open.
Yeah.
And I bet you we're in year number 3. In 5 years, we should be bringing 500 or 600 people to this event. If everything goes the way I want it to go, and we continue growing. So year 1 to year 2, it was 55% growth, which is it wasn't 20% growth. It was 55% growth. And that was, there was a couple of giant hurdles year 1. And that's I don't know that those hurdles were overcome by me as much as the attendees, to be fair. I just go out and make scale trails. And I said, as long as people keep coming to run the scale trails, I'll keep making them. And that's still accurate. We've got a mission statement for USTE, and that continues to be the guiding light. We don't do anything at or for Ultimate Scale Truck Expo that doesn't directly reflect this mission statement. If it doesn't gel with that mission statement, it doesn't happen. So that's, we're going to grow. That's what we're going to do. The next year will be bigger, and the year after that will be bigger, and we'll just keep growing until we're Axial Fest in size, which is fine by me. We got the space, and if we grow like that, I'll keep building trails, and I'll keep making them better, and we'll keep putting more, more bridges, more terrain, more of everything. Yep.
I hear you there. Next, my final question, man. We're reaching the end, and so what should we expect to see next out of you and possibly UST? I mean, you pretty much talked about UST, but what should we see next coming from Rob?
More of my sparkling personality.
Awesome.
I don't know. We, we're gonna keep traveling. Amanda and I, we bounce around. I don't know, 4 or 5 different events throughout the year. We love doing it. Get on an airplane with a couple of trucks and go fly here and there and go trucking with our friends, people that we've met and like to go run trails with.
Yeah.
I have more projects. It is ridiculous how many builds I have. There's they're just lined up one after another.
Yep.
So, I'll keep building scale trucks because I enjoy building scale trucks, and keep plugging away. I do, since we're coming to the end.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout to. Let me find my paperwork here.
There you go.
The right paperwork, which I did have in front of me, and I don't know what I do with that piece of paper. Fold it up, please.
Underneath the toaster?
No, I don't know what I did with it. This is what happens when you write things down and then it comes up missing. All right, here we go. So I'm going to give a shout. Last thing. We've had multiple sponsors in the 3 years of this event that have not only supported the event, but done so above and beyond for 3 years in a row now. And so we, as events go, you have support that comes, and then you have support that leaves, and for whatever, and that's fine. I get that. But these 3 sponsors have been top shelf for 3 years now, and they are just fantastic as far as I'm concerned. So, in no particular order, for what it's worth, RC Addict, Ryan and Rochelle Cormesser, of course, they're up in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
For 3 years in a row, have just donated and given, and they were here last year. They'll be here again as a vendor this year on site. Proline Racing, Paul Wilhite out there in California, he has been top shelf to work with. They're sending us. I wish I could win some of the stuff that they send us. Let's just leave it at that. Helios, I know from the GCM standpoint, all we run are Helios batteries. These trucks and buggies, there's not a lot of battery space in these things, and we pretty much run 1,500 3S packs from Helios, top shelf. Jack's RC Recycle and Repair, Sean Larman, he's just up the road in Jacksonville. He is a grade A, super fun guy. He actually has trucks that people that come to the gardens to go to the gardens, and there's a lot of families. He's got trucks that they can rent. Here, drive this. Put a transmitter in some kid's hand who's never driven a truck before, which is fantastic. Scalar Fab, Troy and Casey Loftus, 3 years in a row now. It's never a question. You bet. We'll be there. This year they're going to be here. I can't wait to see Casey. She's far better looking than Troy for what it's worth. J Concepts, they're just down the road here in Florida. Or Rich Mueller, he's another one that's been like, yeah, you have an event, we're there. Count me in. I'll be there as a vendor. We'll show off stuff. Team K&K Hardware, Mike and Emily, Kirby, top shelf. Every year, no questions. We're in. Tell us what we can do for you. Mike should be here, but there's something about a photograph, or I don't know what's right with that. Anyway, GCM, Chris and Dana. I mentioned Chris earlier. He actually helps a lot with this event. I bounce ideas off of him. He helps me make more professional emails, which isn't my forte. Super guys, they sponsor every year. Tom and John of RC 4-Wheel Drive. So the first year, because I am totally an event coordinator and I know what I'm doing, Tom was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I was telling him all about the event and how great it's going to be, and we're going to have 400 people here. And he thought I was totally insane. And Tom, I don't know. I hope I wasn't too much of a jerk, but he hung in there with us. I don't know if he believed in me or he believed in the event or what, but they have been top shelf too for 3 years now supporting the event. Hey, what's that guy's name? That guy. I'm not that guy, but he's that guy, Matt, Scale Builders Guild.
Yes. Yeah.
They are 100% on board with this event, what we're trying to accomplish in growing the scale modeling aspect. And then last but not least is WTF, which is white trash fabrication. That's my right-hand man, Kevin Lutz. He does some fabricating, land anchors, and he does all kinds of artistic stuff. Actually, he does this. This is a WTF creation. He did this for me after the first year expo. And if you don't know, that is a piston that he hand carves into a.
That's killer, man. I like it.
That's Kevin. Very, very talented dude. So, yeah, man. Those are my top three shout outs to sponsors, and they keep me motivated. And Amanda's talking to me, and I don't know what she's saying. It's pretty funny.
She can talk to you. That's fine. If you got anything else to add, by all means, do it. If anybody watching has any questions or anything, hit me up. I know that I'm looking back through some of the last comments. I'd kind of tuned away from them for a second. Reading down through. Mr. Comedy wants to know if you are headed up that way in the future there, Rob.
Oh my gosh. You know that I could go to, I was going to say, that I could go to Hawaii, but I can't quite get that far. I know Chris and Dana are going out west again.
Yeah, potentially, yes. The answer to that is yes. Will it be this year? I don't know, maybe. We haven't sat down to do a schedule yet of events we're attending. I know we're going to go to Beat the Creek in Kentucky because I've missed that for 2 years now. And, I'm like, I have got to go to this event. It sounds fantastic. And I don't care how much it rains and how much mud there is. I also very much want to go to Proline by the Fire.
That's a very challenging event for us to get to because it's camping. It's on-site primitive camping. So we have to fly from here to there and then go raid Walmart for a tent and sleeping bags. I mean, I don't know. I haven't quite figured that out yet. But yeah, I'm freaking West Coast Canada. You bet. Mountains, Canada, cold. Well, it's not going to be cold then, I guess, when they have their event. But yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah. So, all right, Rob, is there anything I missed that you need to add in to what we've got going on, or anything else you want to say before I kind of end the show out and let you go here?
Yeah, probably. But I can talk all night, so no. I'm just going through your questions, and I think we pretty well got everything. Oh yeah, you know what? There is one. I'm going to show you this because I had Amanda go out in the garage and get it.
Okay, sweet.
My favorite builder truck, and I thought for sure you're going to hit this.
Oh, well, I did it because, you were showing all the trucks, and it was all in a row, and I was like, oh, I keep going to the thing, but I'm transitioning to you. Show off your favorite building truck, man. I would love to see it. I felt really bad about skipping it, too, to be completely honest.
So it's called the Goat. And this is the Goat. It's a Bronco, Tamiya Bronco. It's very slammed. It's all custom chassis. It's got some RC Attic super lightweight guys in there, so I get maximum scale points for you Sorka guys.
Oh.
And it is I get a lot of comments about this truck too. So let me pop the body off.
I really dig the stance. I like that slammed with the big tires and the slightly wider stance. It looks spot on, like something I'd build.
These are Goodyear Wranglers. It's a Class 1 truck, if you can believe it or not. It's got a Holmes Hobbies Outrunner, the full-size Outrunner motor. Dual servo mount, servo up front, winch in the back. It's got a Castle MMP on it. All the electronics are shoved down here in the side plate. And it actually has Terramod, the original GCM Terramod axles under it. So this is SCX 1 ring and pinion gears in here. So yeah, full custom all metal truck. It's super heavy, and this is a 10-inch wheelbase because so many freaking people asked me. I finally remembered this is 10 inches.
So I just think that's funny. A little bit. That's it.
All right, man. I actually just got 2 more questions that I'd love to ask you because they're ones I often ask. And somebody else wants to know. They want to know what truck out there that is not your own do you have your eye on in the scale community here?
Oh my God.
Man, there are so many trucks.
It's not that there's so many trucks, there's so many builders
Right.
that are so talented. I mean, just
That absolutely make me look just like a simpleton, which might, is not far off. But I mean, the one that I can think of right off the bat, there's actually two trucks that I can think of immediately that come to mind when I think of all the places we've been and all the trucks that we've seen.
Yeah.
Michael Blazer, for instance, Michael Blazer builds some amazing, absolutely amazing rigs. But for me, Scale Builders Guild, Matt Kett, he's built 2 trucks that just stand out to me. One of them is the
half tank rear end.
The half track.
Yeah, the half track.
That's one that's just so totally unique and just freaking just cool as you can get. Right, that thing is awesome. And then the other one that he built is the Loco Hawk.
Yep.
The steam powered. I think that's a 6x, right? And just the engineering that goes into stuff like that, and it's Matt Kett. I mean, he's got an eye for detail. They look good. Performance takes a very second seat to me when I look at a truck, or like you just said, what truck catches my eye? Those 2 trucks, man, they should catch everybody's eye.
They're the top 2 on my list, and they have been ever since I first saw them. And I can't lie, like it's come up in, like, if you watch all the Live 945s, and I highly suggest you do, they're in multiple playlists, just saying. But anyway, it's in like every video, man. I love the half track. I love the Loco Hawk. Their detail, the intricacy, and the behind both those, second to none.
Yeah.
I do some intricate work too on occasion.
Wait, now I got to transition again. You keep pulling stuff out, and you don't give me a heads up. All right, what we got going on?
All right.
This is a legitimate 1/10 scale Bronco frame.
That's been split. It's half-inch square stock that's been split, cut, powder coated. It's got all of the proper body mounts, even angled body mounts on the frame, and bolt-on shock hoops that are brazed together. And I built this off of an actual Bronco frame, like plans for a Bronco frame that I scaled down to 1/10 scale, including inverted rear shackle mounts.
Yeah.
On a Ford, it's not like an RC truck, right, where the shackle points down and the leaf spring goes to it. On a Ford, the shackle points up and the spring comes down from that. So this is just one of the projects. I don't know if you can see the forward spring hanger is actually legit. It's cut up into the body mount where it's supposed to be. This was just another project that I wanted to do just to do it. This was a working driving truck, complete with bell crank steering, the track bar, servo mount up here, and then of course the winch mount underneath the frame here. Just I mean, just like you said, Adam, you built that super awesome thing with hand tools.
Yeah.
Well, this is not all built with hand tools, but I started just like you did. I started with nothing, and then progressed to where I'm actually tracing things out on a template and making this. I mean, if you look at the lines and the frame, all the dips and the curves and ups and the downs, that's as close as you can get
to a Bronco in 1/10 scale, to a Bronco frame in 1/10 scale.
Yeah.
with the exception of the transmission cross member. That's for a scale drive line. I had a full scale drive line in this. So,
I just, you got it somewhere.
And if you can't pick up an electric drill and some sandpaper and a vise,
those are all very inexpensive. Go to Harbor Freight and waste $50, and you'll have more than I had when I started with. And if it lasts you one project, you're doing great. So.
Yep. No, and I couldn't agree with you more. And stuff like that is the stuff that I try to talk about, because when I started, like, I had more time than I did money, and more time than I did knowledge, more time than I did skill. So I used the time. I had the time to just go and try everything. And so I have built numerous things that look absolutely hideous and didn't function, didn't work. And in doing all of that, eventually landed on building some skills and some abilities. And I'm by no means like a top-notch scale modeler, but I can build some stuff. And I am 1,000 times more proud of it if I build it than if I buy it from someone else who did. So
here's an example of time. I didn't know where I was going to put the battery in this truck, right? It's kind of the whatever work truck looking thing. There's no modeling involved with this bed or the cab, right? You just buy them, put them together, you paint them, whatever.
Yep.
But I could not find a place to put the battery. And then it dawned on me, well, if I'm going for the work truck look, what better than an old wooden cargo box? So there you go. Receiver, battery, ESC, speed control. And these are like slats of, I don't even know if I would, birch or something. It's all CA glued together. It's not rocket science. I think I used balsa for a base. And I built this stupid box in like, I don't know, 15 minutes, right?
Yep.
This is just super, super simple, basic, no frills. It's no money. That's what I'm getting at. It took no money at all. And it took a little bit of time, and it looks fantastic. That's it. It snaps down.
If I can get that, maybe this will look better. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's just a wooden box. I didn't buy it. I built it. It took no money. It just took time.
Yep.
So good tips.
Yeah. And so I just got this comment from RC Voodoo here that says some people buy everything and then pay someone else to put it together for them. You know what? That's awesome if that's what you have. If you have money and not time, then use your money the way you want to use your money. I'm not knocking anybody for anything. I just say, for my own personal side of it, if I take the time, do the build, even if it doesn't turn out as good as if I would have paid someone to do it, I genuinely feel better about it. Those skills all came from me doing a really terrible job multiple times before I ever did it halfway decent, which is probably where I land now.
I'm not knocking the guy that just has no time. I'm not knocking that guy at all. And if he's got more money than time, fantastic. Good luck buying the links that you can't figure out how to build, or I'm sorry.
Good luck finding the right links for whatever project you're working on.
But I think that's a very small number of people that have more money than time. Yep. At least in my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, I think we're kind of rounding things out here. I'm glad you brought up your whole that I missed your favorite truck, because I would have felt really bad had I not touched on that. I always try to get that one in there, and at that point I was like, I'll just ask about it later, and then it never came up. So I'm glad you caught it and said something. So I literally, for people who are watching me right now, like I just have to address this. I don't have any idea what happened. My phone vibrated. I just freaked out because that never happens. So it like vibrated and fell off of what was going on, and I probably look like ridiculous. Sorry about that.
That's really funny.
So anyway, man, thank you for being on, and thank you for bringing that back up. And I'm glad that it carried on our conversation a little bit because there's some good stuff right there.
I got 7th place in Class 1 at K&K TTC this past year with that truck. And no, that's the top 10, right? Yeah, 7th place. Whew, man, what time is it? So with that being said, I could have totally been in the top 5 or 4.
And I got where I was basically goofing off at the end of my run. And I was like literally goofing off when I rolled the truck, and like,
it was time penalties, but still, for what it's worth, that truck's fantastic, and I love it. So,
yeah, absolutely awesome. I am very appreciative that you brought it out. So, anyway, I'd like to thank you for being on. I genuinely appreciated it. Every single conversation we've had, man, over the past 2 weeks has been tremendous. And this one is not shy from that whatsoever. I look forward to seeing all of the stuff that comes from USTE this year, and I look forward to seeing it continuing on and just growing and getting better and better, so that when I do finally make it down there, it's even better than it is right now. And I'm excited to see where it all goes.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully, if somebody wants to sit through a couple hours worth of video, that if they have the time, they can watch this and learn more about the event anyway.
Yeah,
and it's something they want to spend their time and money to come to. So.
Yeah, and so we already have had quite a few people sit down and watch what's going on, so that's good. I think it's good getting the news out there, and like I said, thanks for being on, man. I totally appreciate it, and unless you have anything else, I'm going to say thank you and let you go, and then kind of close things out.
Okay, yeah, no, that sounds good. I appreciate it, Adam, and maybe I'll send you a couple of discrete photos here this weekend, where we've got a work weekend coming up in a couple of days, so I'll shoot you some pictures of some spy shots.
Sweet. I will totally keep them secret. But I actually will. I was just joking. Anyway. All right. So thanks for being on, man. And you can hold on to whatever, stay around, and I'm going to close the show out and let things go. But all right. So yep. All right. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I genuinely appreciate each and every one of you that viewed any part of this, all of this, some of this, whatever. I am totally under the realization that not everybody's going to sit and watch an hour and 58 minutes worth of me talking to someone else, and I get that. So hopefully you gained something from it. If you're still here now and you aren't a subscriber, please subscribe. If you still are here now and you are a subscriber and you didn't hit that alert bell, please hit it, because that alert bell will provide you with any notification when we go live, when I post new events, when any of that stuff happens. And I genuinely do have a full calendar coming up. I'm scheduled through February, through March, and I'm scheduling April currently, and that's filling up. So I just need to get some more events up here on YouTube and get them clicking away. Anyway, thank you guys for all tuning in, and I'm going to close this out like I do every other time. And if it wasn't for all of you, then it would just be me talking to a camera in my basement, and no one wants to see that. So have a great night, everyone, and I will talk to you all next week on another live at 9:45.